What has happened here in Arizona is a new inflection point. It has demonstrated once and for all that overturning Roe was just the opening act of a larger strategy to take women's rights and freedoms, part of a full-on attack, state by state, on reproductive freedom. And we all must understand who is to blame. Former President Donald Trump did this.
That was Vice President Kamala Harris in Tucson, Arizona, just days after the state's Supreme Court upheld a law that was passed in 1864 that makes abortion a felony punishable by 2 to 5 years in prison. The only exception is to save a woman's life. Before the law goes into effect, the court has sent the case back to a lower court to hear some additional arguments. Joining us now is the president and CEO of the National Women's Law Center, Fatima Goss-Graves, and Arizona State Senator Eva Birch. Senator Birch, thank you for being here with us. We want to start with you. First, I want to know, do you support a special session, if you will, to repeal this ban? I know we've heard things from different Democrats in this state, and I'm wondering where you stand on that.
Sure. Thank you for having me. It's nice to be here again. We don't need a special session. We are in session. So we really can address this now. We had the opportunity to do it on Wednesday. We are going to be back at the legislature again for more business on Wednesday. And all we have to do is vote on a repeal, a vote on a repeal that already exists. We already have a bill that's ready to go to repeal this ban, and we don't need a special session for it. We're still in session. We have not adjourned our business for the year. So it really is a very simple solution that we should be taking advantage of.
It's just so striking to me, Fatima, that Arizona has become a microcosm of our national politics when it comes to abortion, when it comes to immigration, and the fact that you have Republicans in the state who don't want to touch this politically, right? I mean, what we're seeing in Arizona is what we are seeing nationally from Republicans.
Listen, Arizona is a window to what would happen in any state that took you back to the 1860s. The idea that 1860 laws, civil rights era laws, where women had virtually no rights, you couldn't own property, you couldn't vote, slavery still existed, should govern our lives today, is anger-making. So you have women around this country enraged and demanding people do something about it.
Well, and you have people in this country who may not call themselves pro-choice, who look at what's happening in Arizona and say, this is gross government overreach, this is extreme. I mean, that, to me, that is part of what Arizona articulates.
It's because it is extreme. And so you can't have it both ways here. You can't sort of sit back and say, well, you know, maybe I do something different and maybe it's a little extreme, and then not do something about it. So the fact that she just said, we're still in session, it's not going to be good enough to talk about it. They're going to expect action to not take them back to the Civil War era.
Senator Birch, Axios reports that Arizona GOP blocks the efforts to repeal the ban, noting Speaker Ben Tama tells Axios that he wouldn't support a repeal and wouldn't permit a vote on it. But then you also have Kari Lake, who is trying to do the backstroke on this issue because she's on the record, right? She is on the record, very clearly on the record in support of this 1860 law. Couldn't wait until it was a part of the Arizona legal landscape again. How are your fellow senators and members of the House looking at this issue as we get ready for the fall? I mean, you guys are in session now, and we don't know what the outcome may be, but there's going to be a political consequence on the back end of this for a lot of elected leadership. How real are those consequences, do you think, for the likes of the representative and the senators who are, and candidates who at once supported very much this draconian law, but today seemingly think that voters just won't give a damn and will move on past it and forget that they once supported it?
Well, I will say that I don't think any of them are so foolish that they don't realize that there are consequences. I think the problem is that there is no win for the GOP in Arizona right now. They are in a very precarious position where they don't want to allow the Democrats to have a win and to solve this problem, but they also are very concerned about putting forth any legislation of their own because it's going to anger their base. But they are also incredibly fractured. The question of, well, what do we do, does not have a solid solution that has mutual agreement in the Arizona legislature. They are very fractured. There is a lot of infighting. Nobody agrees on what to do next. I think that there are many of them who would be very comfortable voting for a repeal because people are absolutely crying out for it across the political spectrum. Nobody likes this ban. Everybody agrees that this is a serious problem. We have a very, very small but vocal minority of individuals in the legislature and in this state who think that this ban is a great idea and have said so publicly. But for the rest of us, which is the overwhelming majority, everybody agrees that this is a terrible idea. But if they come forward with anything while we're still here in session, I think that they are going to put a poison pill in it, something that Democrats couldn't vote for. I think that that's what they're debating right now and trying to figure out. And I've had a number of people ask me if there's a compromise that I'm open to, and if there's, maybe some solution that we can all agree on. But you don't make a compromise with just one party behind closed doors. The Democrats are not being allowed into the conversation at all. And so I think that they plan to come forward with something eventually that's going to be a bad idea because they are not allowing the voices who have been advocates in this space for a very long time to have any say at all. And so the consequences are going to be dire. I think that they are doing a terrible job. They are being the most irresponsible lawmakers in the country right now. And are they going to see the effects of that in November? Absolutely. I hope nobody dies while they're trying to figure it out.
Senator Burch, what are the laws on the books in Arizona that govern what men can do with their bodies? Are there laws that restrict Viagra or any of the erectile dysfunction aids? Are there laws that talk about, what are the laws about men?
No, we like to reserve all of our draconian laws for women here in the state of Arizona. I think it's pretty much that way across the country. But I think, really to focus and hone in on this particular issue, I think that they really are just playing roulette with our lives for political gain. There is this very small number of Republican legislators who have already put out a statement saying that they think this ban is great. The problem is that that small group of legislators has a history of taking anybody who falls out of line and primarying them in the next election cycle. And so none of these Republicans want to be challenged. None of them want to lose their power because this is a discussion about power. It's about control and controlling our bodies, controlling our decisions, because it's politically expedient for them, and that's how they hang on to their base and hang on to their votes. And that's how they prevent themselves from being primaried in the next election. And they are being crushed under crippling cowardice right now. Everybody knows what the right thing to do is. It is a simple solution. It just needs to be done.
Well, Fatima, to the point about how this is about power, there was a story that we were following in May of last year, a man who was suing his ex-wife over an abortion. There was an update in that case this week. The 14th Court of Appeals said a trial court's order requiring the production of records has the potential to violate her Fifth Amendment right against self-incrimination. This is the new world we live in.
Right. And abusers have been emboldened in this world. We have neighbors using abortion laws against each other. But the thing I want to get back to is that every time voters have had a chance to show up and vote directly on abortion, they've been clear, no matter the state. And so I cannot figure out, in light of that, why we are hurling down this road in Arizona. They have an opportunity to make a change if they want to. The voters are ready with a ballot initiative in Arizona, in places like Florida, and in several states around the country. So you're going to see that backlash.
Hey, everyone. MSNBC has a new and improved app. You'll get real-time alerts and analysis, live blogs, in-depth essays, video highlights, and the best 24 2024 election coverage. Download the new MSNBC app. Here's how to do it. You tap on the App Store on your phone. You hit search on the bottom right corner. You type in MSNBC. You click on the MSNBC app. You click on Get or the cloud icon and enjoy it.